The smoke hit you before you even opened the screen door. Every Saturday from Memorial Day through Labor Day, someone in the familia was firing up the grill. Maybe it was your tío with his barrel smoker held together with baling wire, fanning the charcoal with a piece of cardboard until the coals glowed white. That grill was the center of everything. Cousins in the sprinkler. A cooler full of sodas on ice. Cumbia loud enough for the whole block. Wait until you hear what comes in at number 17. It is something most people outside the culture would never dare try. Yet families fought over the last piece. Number 6 comes straight from the coast. Cooked the way fishing villages have done it for generations. And the dish at number 11 separates the lifelong fans from the newcomers. So hit subscribe, because this list will take you right back to that backyard. Here are 25 cookout dishes Mexican familias grilled all summer long. Number 25. Elote asado. The simplest thing on the grill and somehow the one everybody remembers first. Whole ears of corn, still in the husk or stripped bare, laid directly over the coals until the kernels blistered and darkened in spots. The smell alone could pull neighbors out of their own yards. Once it came off the fire, someone was already standing there with a bucket of mayonnaise, a wedge of lime, a shaker of chili powder, and a block of cotija cheese. Every familia did it a little different. Some rolled the cob in the mayo first, then the cheese. Others squeezed the lime on last. A few skipped the cheese entirely and went straight for Valentina hot sauce. Kids walked around the yard holding the cob on a stick, dripping mayo down their arms. It was never fancy, it never had to be. That ear of corn was the first thing on the grill and the last thing anybody stopped eating. Number 24. Cebollitas asadas. No Mexican cookout was complete without a bundle of green onions charring right next to the meat. They went on the grill whole, roots and all, and they cooked fast. 2 or 3 minutes on each side until the outer layer blackened and the inside turned soft and sweet. You pulled them off, squeezed a lime over the top, and sprinkled salt. That was it. They were eaten by hand, right off the grill, usually faster than anyone could cook them. Some families wrapped them inside a tortilla with a strip of carne asada and a spoonful of salsa. Others just ate them straight, biting off the charred tips one at a time. A side dish that cost almost nothing and made everything else on the plate taste better. Number 23, Alambres, chunks of beef or sometimes chicken, diced onion, bell peppers, sliced jalapeños, strips of bacon, and a pile of shredded cheese, all cooked together right on the grill. Some families used a flat comal or a sheet of foil set over the grate. Others just threw everything into a cast iron skillet and let it sizzle over the coals. The bacon went down first so the fat could render and coat the pan. Then the meat, then the peppers and onions, and finally the cheese melted over everything in a thick, stretchy layer. The whole thing came off the grill as one big steaming pile that people spooned into tortillas at the table. There was no recipe anyone followed. It was whatever meat was left over, whatever peppers someone brought, and whatever cheese was in the cooler. That was the whole point. Alambres turned the end of the cookout into one more round of tacos when everyone thought the food was finished. Number 22. Chorizo. Not the hard, cured Spanish kind. Mexican chorizo is raw, loose, crumbly, and stains everything it touches a deep brick red. At a cookout, it went on the grill in one of two ways. Some families squeezed it out of the casing directly onto a flat comal, or a sheet of foil over the grate. Others grilled the links whole until the casing split and the fat started popping. Either way, it cooked down into a pile of salty, spicy, slightly greasy meat that went straight into a warm tortilla. A squeeze of lime, maybe some diced onion and cilantro. That was a taco. The chorizo was usually the first meat ready because it cooked the fastest, which meant the kids ate first while the adults waited for the carne asada. Number 21. Tortillas on the grill. Corn tortillas laid right on the grate. No oil, no foil, nothing between them and the fire. They puffed up in seconds, ballooning with steam until someone pressed them flat with a pair of tongs. The edges charred just enough to leave a faint taste of smoke in every bite. Flour tortillas went on too, but they needed more attention. Leave them 10 seconds too long, and they turned into crackers. Get them right, and they came off soft, warm, with light brown spots that tasted like toasted butter. Every cookout had a tea stationed at the grill doing nothing but tortillas. She flipped them bare-handed, stacking them into a towel-lined basket that never stayed full for more than a minute. Number 20. Jalapeños rellenos asados. Fresh jalapeños, sliced in half lengthwise, seeds scraped out, stuffed with cream cheese or queso Oaxaca. Sometimes both. Some families wrapped each one in a half strip of bacon before they hit the grill. Others left them open-faced and let the cheese bubble and brown directly over the coals. The heat from the pepper mellowed as it cooked, turning from a sharp bite into a slow, smoky warmth that crept up after a few seconds. The cheese melted down into the cavity and fused with the flesh of the pepper until you could not tell where one ended and the other began. Families who grew their own jalapeños in the backyard had a serious advantage here, because those homegrown peppers were twice the size of anything from the store. Some added a small piece of shrimp or a sliver of carne asada inside before closing them up. They were finger food, eaten standing up, and nobody ever made enough. Number 19. Nopales asados. For families who did not grow up around prickly pear cactus, this one sounds strange. But across the Southwest, grilled nopales were as common on the cookout table as corn or beans. The paddles came from the prickly pear, the same plant that grew wild in vacant lots and along fence lines from South Texas to Southern California. Preparing them was a job in itself. Someone had to scrape off every single spine with a sharp knife, trim the edges, and rinse the paddles until they stopped feeling slimy. That slime was the part that turned people off if they had never tried nopales before. But the grill solved that problem completely. The moment the paddles hit the hot grate, the moisture cooked out and the texture firmed up into something closer to a grilled bell pepper. Slightly crunchy, slightly smoky, with a clean green taste that cut through all the heavy meat on the table. Most families scored the surface with a crosshatch pattern before grilling, so the heat penetrated evenly. They cooked fast, maybe 4 minutes on each side, and you knew they were done when the grill marks turned dark and the edges started to crisp. Once they came off, they got sliced into strips and tossed with diced tomato, white onion, cilantro, a squeeze of lime, and crumbled queso fresco. That became a salad that sat right next to the salsa bowl. Some families chopped them smaller and folded them into tacos with a strip of arrachera. Others ate them plain, right off the cutting board, sprinkled with nothing but salt and a few drops of lime. In parts of central Mexico, nopales have been a daily food for thousands of years. The fact that they grew for free, needed almost no water, and could be harvested year-round made them one of the most reliable foods a family could depend on. At a summer cookout, though, they were not about survival. They were about balance. All that rich, fatty meat needed something clean and bright next to it, and grilled nopales were exactly that. Number 18. Tripas asadas. Beef tripe cut into long strips and thrown directly onto the grill grate over the hottest coals. No marinade, no seasoning beforehand, just raw tripe hitting scorching metal. The strips curled and shrank as the fat rendered out, and the edges turned golden and crispy while the centers stayed just barely chewy. The smell was unmistakable. Anyone who grew up around a Mexican cookout knew it the second it hit the air. The taquero or whoever was running the grill kept flipping them with tongs, pulling off the pieces that crisped fastest and tossing them onto a cutting board. They got chopped into small bites right there and served in warm tortillas with cilantro, raw onion, a squeeze of lime, and salsa verde. Some families added a little guacamole. The texture was what people either loved or refused to try. Crispy on the outside, tender in the middle, with a richness that came from all that rendered fat. Kids who grew up eating them never thought twice about it. It was just another taco at the cookout. Number 17. Papas en aluminio. Whole potatoes wrapped in aluminum foil and buried directly in the hot coals beneath the grill grate. Not next to the coals, in them. They sat there for the better part of an hour, while everything else cooked above. Nobody checked on them. Nobody turned them. When someone finally remembered to pull them out with a stick or a pair of long tongs, the foil was black and the potato inside was completely soft, with a thin layer of smoky char pressed into the skin. Families split them open and loaded them with butter, crumbled queso fresco, salsa roja, sliced jalapeños, and sometimes leftover carne asada, chopped into small pieces. Children loved them because they were simple and filling. Adults loved them because they required zero attention. The potatoes cooked themselves while the grill master focused on the meat. Every cookout had a few of them buried somewhere in the coals, and finding them at the end of the night was like digging up a small treasure nobody had been thinking about. Number 16. Queso fundido al carbón. A cast iron skillet or a disposable aluminum pan loaded with chunks of Oaxaca cheese, or sometimes Chihuahua cheese, set directly on the grill grate until everything melted into a bubbling pool. Some families stirred in crumbled chorizo or strips of roasted poblano pepper. Others kept it plain and let the cheese do all the work. The edges of the pan got hot enough to brown the cheese where it touched the metal, creating a crispy, salty crust that people scraped off with a tortilla and ate first. It was meant to be a starter, something to keep everyone busy while the meat cooked, but it rarely lasted that long. One skillet could disappear in under 5 minutes if enough people crowded around it. The pan came off the grill empty, scorched, and already being refilled for a second round. Number 15. Hamburguesas mexicanas. These were not the thin, frozen patties from the supermarket. Mexican cookout burgers were thick, hand-formed, and mixed with diced jalapeño, minced onion, and a heavy shake of cumin before they went on the grill. Some families added a raw egg and a handful of breadcrumbs to hold the meat together. Others mixed in finely chopped chipotle peppers from a can for a smoky heat that went all the way through. The bun was usually a telera roll or a bolillo, split and toasted face down on the grill until the inside turned golden. Toppings went beyond the usual lettuce and tomato. Sliced avocado, pickled jalapeños, a smear of refried beans, crumbled queso fresco, and a drizzle of crema all went on top, sometimes all at once. These burgers were two-handed, leaning forward so the juice dripped onto the ground instead of down your shirt. Nobody ate them sitting down. Number 14. Costillas de puerco adobadas. Pork ribs marinated overnight in a thick paste made from dried guajillo and ancho chiles, garlic, cumin, oregano, a splash of vinegar, and sometimes a spoonful of piloncillo for sweetness. The adobo turned the meat a deep reddish brown before it ever touched the fire. These were not the low and slow, fall-off-the-bone American barbecue ribs. Mexican families grilled their costillas hot and fast, directly over the coals, turning them every few minutes and basting with more adobo from a bowl that sat on the edge of the grill. The outside caramelized into a sticky, slightly charred glaze, while the inside stayed juicy enough to drip when you bit into it. The bones were cut thin, usually across the rack in short strips, so each piece was 2 or 3 ribs wide and easy to hold in one hand. That style came from the carniceria, where the butcher sliced the whole rack on a band saw into strips about an inch thick. It made them cook faster and gave every piece more surface area for the marinade to grip. Families in South Texas and northern Mexico have been cooking ribs this way for generations. The adobo recipe varied from house to house, and every family believed theirs was the best. Some used only guajillo for a milder, sweeter flavor. Others leaned heavy on the ancho for depth, or added a single chipotle for smoke. A few dropped in a piece of Mexican chocolate or a stick of cinnamon, flavors that disappeared into the paste but left something behind you could not quite name. The ribs were served on a communal plate in the center of the table, and everyone reached in with their hands. No forks, no plates. Just a stack of tortillas, a bowl of salsa, and a pile of bones growing on the edge of the table. By the time the costillas were gone, the adobo had stained everyone's fingers and nobody cared. Number 13. Camarones al mojo de ajo. For families near the coast, or families who could get fresh shrimp at a good price, grilled shrimp in garlic butter was the luxury item at the cookout. The shrimp went on skewers, shell on, and hit the grill already drenched in a sauce made from whole cloves of garlic slowly cooked in butter until they turned golden and soft. A squeeze of lime went on while they were still over the fire. The shells blackened and crackled in the heat, and the garlic butter dripped into the coals and sent up a smell that could stop the whole block. Peeling them at the table was half the experience. Fingers smelled like garlic and charcoal for the rest of the night. Families from Sinaloa, Nayarit, and the Gulf Coast towns brought this tradition with them when they moved north, and it stayed. Number 12. Pollo asado. Whole chickens butterflied down the backbone, and pressed flat or cut into quarters, marinated in a blend of citrus juice, garlic, achiote paste, and dried oregano. The marinade turned the skin a golden orange before the bird ever reached the grill. Cooking a whole chicken over charcoal took patience. It sat on the cooler side of the grate, lid on if there was one, for close to an hour. Every 15 minutes someone flipped it and brushed on more marinade. The skin crisped slowly, the fat rendered out, and the smoke worked its way into the meat until every bite tasted like it had been cooking all day. The dark meat, the thighs and drumsticks, came off first because they finished sooner. The breast stayed on a few minutes longer. Some families served the polo with a simple curtido, a pickled cabbage slaw with carrot and jalapeño that cut through the richness. Others piled it into tortillas and ate it as tacos. Either way, a grilled chicken fed more people for less money than almost anything else on the grill. Number 11. Piña asada. Thick slices of fresh pineapple laid directly on the grill grate over medium heat. The natural sugars in the fruit caramelized fast, forming a dark golden crust on the surface while the inside stayed juicy and warm. Someone dusted the slices with powdered chili, a little salt, and a squeeze of lime before they came off. The combination of sweet, sour, heat, and smoke made it one of the most surprising bites at the cookout, especially for anyone who had never tasted grilled fruit before. Families served it as a side, as a topping for tacos al pastor, or just handed the slices around on their own as a snack between rounds of meat. The pineapple also worked as a palate cleanser. After heavy bites of chorizo and carne asada, a piece of charred piña with chili cut right through the richness and reset everything. It was the dish that people always forgot to ask for, but never forgot once they tried it. Number 10. Cabrito. Baby goat, roasted whole or in large pieces over an open fire. In northern Mexico and South Texas, cabrito was not exotic. It was a celebration food, the centerpiece of weddings, baptisms, graduations, and the biggest summer cookouts. The animal was usually young, only a few weeks old, when the meat was still pale, tender, and mild enough that even people who thought they did not like goat would eat it without complaint. The whole animal went on a large grill or a spit over mesquite coals, turning slowly for hours. The fat was minimal, so the meat cooked lean and needed constant basting with a mixture of beer, lime, butter, and salt. The ribs were the prized cut. Thin, delicate, and crispy on the edges, they pulled apart with almost no effort. Monterrey built an entire culinary identity around cabrito al pastor, and families who migrated from that region to Texas brought the tradition with them. Today, restaurants across South Texas still serve it, but nothing matched the version cooked in someone's backyard over a grill made from an old oil drum. Number 9. Campechana. Not a single dish, but a strategy. Whatever the family was grilling that day, a little bit of everything ended up on one big serving plate in the center of the table. Strips of carne asada next to chorizo, next to a few links of longaniza. A pile of grilled onions, some nopales, a couple of jalapeños, and whatever else came off the fire. The word campechana means a mix of things, and that was exactly what it was. Nobody planned it. It just happened. As each item finished cooking, it got sliced and added to the pile. The plate kept growing until there was no room left, and then someone brought a second plate. Everyone built their own tacos from the pile, combining whatever they wanted. Two people sitting next to each other could eat completely different meals from the same platter. That was the beauty of the campechana. Number 8. Cecina enchilada. Thin sheets of beef that had been salted, rubbed with a paste of dried guajillo and ancho chiles, and hung to cure until the surface turned a deep, dark red. The meat came from the leg or the loin, sliced so thin you could almost see through it. At the carniceria, it hung in long strips behind the counter, stiff and leathery, waiting to be weighed and wrapped in butcher paper. On the grill, cecina enchilada transformed. The thin sheets cooked in less than 2 minutes per side. The chile paste caramelized into a smoky, slightly sweet crust, while the inside stayed tender and salty. The flavor was intense. One piece in a warm tortilla with a little avocado and raw onion was enough to stop a conversation. Cecina was popular across central Mexico for generations, but it became a cookout staple in Mexican communities across the United States because it was affordable, easy to transport, and required almost no preparation at the grill itself. All the work had already been done by the butcher. The grill master just had to lay it down, flip it once, and pull it off before it dried out. Timing was everything. 30 seconds too long and the thin meat turned brittle. But when someone got it right, cecina enchilada was one of the most flavorful things on the entire grill, and one of the fastest to disappear from the plate. Number 7. Carne enchilada. Thin slices of pork, sometimes beef, coated in a thick paste of dried guajillo chile, garlic, vinegar, and a pinch of clove. The paste dyed the meat a vivid red that looked almost too bright to be real. It came from the carniceria already marinated, stacked in the display case like sheets of red paper. On the grill, the chili paste caramelized fast. The sugar in the dried chilies caught the heat and turned the surface sticky and slightly sweet, while the vinegar kept the inside tangy and bright. It cooked in minutes because the slices were thin, and it was eaten immediately, rolled into a tortilla before it had time to cool. Carne enchilada was common in Michoacán, Jalisco, and Aguascalientes, and families from those states kept it as a cookout tradition wherever they settled in the United States. Number 6. Pescado zarandeado. A whole fish, usually snapper, or a similar whitefish, butterflied open, rubbed with a dark paste made from dried chilies, garlic, soy sauce, and mayonnaise, then grilled flat over charcoal on a wire rack or a piece of mesh. This dish came straight from the coast of Nayarit and Sinaloa, where fishermen cooked their catch right on the beach over wood fires. The word zarandeado comes from zarandear, which means to shake or turn, and it described the way the cook worked the grill, adjusting the fish constantly to keep it from sticking or burning. Cooking a whole fish on a grill takes nerve. The skin tears easily. The flesh flakes apart if you handle it too roughly, but when it comes off right, the skin is charred and crackling while the meat underneath stays moist, flaky, and saturated with the smoky chili paste. Families who came from the Pacific Coast states brought this tradition to California, Arizona, and Texas. At a cookout, the zarandeado was always the showpiece, the dish that made people stop talking and watch the grill. Number 5. Longaniza. A long coil of spiced pork sausage, thinner than chorizo and seasoned differently depending on the region it came from. Longaniza from Oaxaca tasted nothing like longaniza from Toluca, and both were different from the versions sold in Texas. What they shared was the shape. One continuous rope of sausage, coiled on the grill like a snake, cooking slowly until the casing tightened and the juices started dripping through. Some families grilled it whole and sliced it at the table. Others cut it into links before it went on the fire. The flavor was milder than chorizo, more herbal, with notes of anise or thyme depending on the recipe. Eaten with a warm tortilla and a simple salsa roja, longaniza was the quiet favorite at many cookouts, the one that people kept going back for without making a fuss about it. Number 4. Bistec ranchero. Thin steaks pounded even thinner with a meat mallet, seasoned with salt, pepper, and garlic, and thrown on the hottest part of the grill for less than 2 minutes per side. The key was the thinness. The steaks cooked so fast that the outside seared and the inside stayed juicy, and the whole process from raw to done took less time than it took to warm a tortilla. Some families topped them with a quick ranchero sauce made from grilled tomatoes, serrano chilies, and onion, all smashed together in a molcajete right there at the table. Others served them plain with nothing but lime and salt. Bistec ranchero was the weeknight steak, the everyday cut that cost less than a rachera and fed more people per pound. At a cookout, it was the reliable middle of the lineup, never the star, but never left behind. Number 3. Agujas. Beef short ribs, cut thin across the bone on a bandsaw at the carniceria, marinated in a simple mix of lime, garlic, salt, and sometimes a splash of orange juice. Nobody at a Mexican cookout called them flanken style. They were agujas, and they went on the grill in long, flat strips with small rounds of bone running through them like buttons. The marinade was light because the meat itself carried plenty of flavor. Beef fat and bone marrow did all the heavy lifting. They cooked fast over high heat, charring on the outside while the fat around the bones rendered and basted the meat from the inside. Each strip got cut into smaller pieces at the table, and the bones were the best part, chewed clean and sucked dry by anyone who was not shy about it. Agujas were a northern Mexico and Texas specialty, a staple from Monterrey to the Rio Grande Valley. Number 2. Suadero. A cut of beef taken from between the belly and the leg, where the meat is thin, layered with connective tissue, and rich with fat. In Mexico City, suadero is one of the most popular street taco fillings, cooked on a flat griddle until the edges turn golden and crispy. At a backyard cookout, families grilled it directly over charcoal, where the fat rendered quickly, and the exterior developed a deep, caramelized crust. The texture was unlike any other cut on the grill. Tender where the fat had melted through, slightly chewy where the connective tissue held firm, and crispy on every surface that touched the heat. Sliced thin and piled into a double corn tortilla with a spoonful of salsa verde and a few rings of raw white onion. A suadero taco was one of the richest, most satisfying bites at the entire cookout. The cut was inexpensive, and the butcher often had plenty because most customers outside the culture did not know what to do with it. Number 1. carne asada. The king of the cookout. The reason the grill existed in the first place. The phrase itself just means grilled meat, but at a Mexican cookout it meant one thing. Beef, usually a thick flap of ranchera or diezmilo, seasoned simply and cooked over the hottest coals until the outside was charred and the inside was still pink. Every familia had their own method, and every familia believed theirs was the only right way. Some used nothing but salt. Others marinated overnight in lime, garlic, and a handful of dried chilies. A few added soy sauce, a trick common in the carne asada of Sonora and the border towns where Asian and Mexican kitchens have overlapped for decades. The grill had to be blazing. The meat went on with a hiss and came off with a crust. It rested for a few minutes on the cutting board. Then someone sliced it across the grain into thin strips. A stack of warm tortillas appeared. Bowls of salsa, guacamole, cilantro, and onions circled the platter. Nobody waited. Nobody asked for permission. You grabbed a tortilla, loaded it, and ate. That was carne asada. That was the whole cookout, everything it was about, in a single bite. Those 25 dishes are more than just food. They are a record of every family that set up a grill in the backyard and turned a Saturday into something the kids would remember 40 years later. If one of these dishes brought back a memory, leave it in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe so you never miss another one. We will see you in the next video.